Leadership change. House Republicans vote to take the party in a new direction. Speaker of the House. What Speaker Nancy Pelosi told us about the debate over communion for politicians who support abortion. Immigration reform. How President Joe Biden is drawing attention to dreamers. And welcoming life. What Pope Francis told a conference in Italy. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, May 14th, 2021. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. It is now official. GOP lawmakers have chosen New York Representative Elise Stefanik as the number 3 Republican in the House. The New York congresswoman won by a vote of 134 to 46. She takes over following Wednesday's ouster of Congresswoman Liz Cheney of Wyoming. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric.
Well, good evening, Tracy. You know, prior to today's vote, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik ended up writing a 2-page Dear Colleague letter. In it, she wrote her goals as conference chair. She talked about bringing discipline, a united message from leadership, also empowering all members to shine. And in the end, she was recommended as the Republican conference chair.
We are going on offense and are going to win back the majority in 2022. This is about being unified.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik thanked her Republican colleagues for the opportunity and made sure to mention former President Donald Trump, whom she called, quote, a critical part of our Republican team.
I support President Trump. Voters support President Trump. He is an important voice in our Republican Party, and we look forward to working with him.
Also on Capitol Hill, the top Democrat and Republican on the House Homeland Security Committee struck a deal to create a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. A House vote to create the commission will happen next week. It will include a 10-member panel with 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats. If created, the commission would be tasked with issuing a final report by the end of this year.
We had a very productive, more than courteous give and take. We did talk specifics.
Meanwhile, negotiations continue on a bipartisan infrastructure deal. Republicans and President Joe Biden plan to have further talks at the White House next week. One idea is to split the massive $1.8 trillion American Jobs Plan package into 2 or more separate bills, creating a bipartisan bill on infrastructure, but also doing the rest of the package as a reconciliation bill with a simple majority vote. Democratic lawmakers say they can't wait on Republicans.
For many in our caucus, I think what we would want to know is that the reconciliation bill is moving at the same time as any other bill.
There is still an issue of how we're going to pay for these infrastructure improvements. Now, Republicans propose to pay for it through user fees, while Democrats want to raise corporate taxes. But Republicans say that any touching the 2017 tax cut bill is a non-starter. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
House Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is responding to recent calls from some church leaders to use caution regarding Holy Communion and pro-abortion lawmakers.
I think I can use my own judgment on that, but I'm pleased with what the Vatican put out on that.
House Speaker Pelosi was responding to a question yesterday from EWTN's Eric Rosales. The Speaker has long supported legal abortion. She also supports the Equality Act, legislation that the U.S. Bishops' Conference warns would punish religious groups opposed to the redefinition of marriage and transgender ideology. Our President Joe Biden holds a White House meeting with so-called Dreamers immigrants who were illegally brought to the U.S. as children. Just last month, the president called on lawmakers to pass legislation to protect Dreamers using DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, good evening. As he pushes for immigration reform, today President Joe Biden met with 6 immigrants who were brought to the U.S. illegally a long time ago as children. Among them, a teacher, medical resident, and nursing home aide. And also, the Catholic Church strongly defends Dreamers.
Immigrants have done so much for America during this pandemic.
Just last month, President Joe Biden praised immigrants and their contributions to America.
Congress needs to pass legislation this year to finally secure protection for dreamers. The young people have only known America as their home.
In the White House press briefing room, Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters the president wants action on immigration.
The president believes that DACA recipients are part of the American story and part of the fabric of who we are as a country and kind of what the American dream represents. So bringing them here is an opportunity to highlight that.
Earlier this year, just after President Joe Biden moved into the White House, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops said this about Dreamers. For years, DACA youth have been enriching our country. They and their families deserve certainty, compassion, generosity, and justice. And also said, permanent legislative protection that overcomes partisanship and puts the human dignity and future of Dreamers first is long overdue. Meanwhile, riding on empty. Gas shortages at the pumps. South and Mid-Atlantic states impacted following that suspected cyber attack. GasBuddy.com says 88% of gas stations out of fuel in Washington, D.C.
Last night, the Department of Homeland Security announced a second targeted and temporary Jones Act waiver to give us additional tools to get fuel to affected communities.
And in Rome, presidential envoy for climate John Kerry is set to meet with Pope Francis Saturday at the Vatican. Today he met with Italy's prime minister, focusing on decarbonization. Now back to the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack for a moment. Restoring service is taking time, so be patient. And today the White House asked drivers, please only buy the gas that you need. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
The priest who celebrated a mass on Inauguration Day for President Joe Biden has resigned from his post at a university in California. Father Kevin O'Brien had been president at Santa Clara University. An investigation found that he engaged in inappropriate conversations with graduate students. Father O'Brien says he hopes to return to active ministry following a 4 to 6 month outpatient program. Well, the U.S. Office of the Special Counsel says President Biden's Housing and Urban Development Secretary violated the Hatch Act. The violation stems from when Marcia Fudge joined a White House briefing in March and weighed in on a Senate race in Ohio. The Hatch Act bans federal employees from using their positions for political gain. Lawmakers in Texas have approved a measure that would ban abortion after 6 weeks. It would also permit private citizens to enforce the plan through civil lawsuits. Republican Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign the proposal. Pro-abortion groups are likely to file a legal challenge. Coronavirus restrictions are tightening in Singapore. Gatherings are limited to 2 people and employees are being asked to work from home. The new month-long restrictions come as Singapore and Hong Kong near resumption of limited air travel between the 2 cities. Indoor museums in Greece have reopened today for the official launch of tourist season. The Acropolis Museum and others had kept online exhibits available, that is, for the public, but the coronavirus pandemic cost Greece more than 78% of its in-person visitors last year. Pope Francis has added his voice to the growing alarm about Italy's demographic crisis. He says a society that does not welcome life stops living.
Perché una società che non accoglie la vita smette di vivere.
Speaking at a conference on the topic, the Holy Father called on the Italian government to provide financial stability to encourage people to have families. Last year, Italy's birth rate hit its lowest level since 1861. Joining us now is Vicenzo Bassi, president of the Federation of Catholic Family Associations in Europe. Vicenzo, welcome back. Good to see you. So tell us, do we know what's leading to the drop in birth rates in Italy?
Yeah, the point is the reasons of this birth rate are several. I mean, there are cultural reasons, but also economic reasons. We have to say that today, to bring up children, you have to avoid many obstacles for social reasons and for economical reasons. We do not have any welfare state supporting family having children. And also, we do not have any more communities which support, which encourage youth having children. So we have to restart also creating community, accepting the children as an award for the community, but also for the future of the community.
I understand Pope Francis mentioned that working women feel discouraged to have children. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
The Pope spoke very much also about the necessity of intergenerational balance in order to achieve a sustainable development. And what he said that a society, a community which is ashamed of a woman pregnant, having a children, is a society, a community which decided not to live. It was very strong. The statement of the Pope was very impressive, and I think it was one of the first time that Pope Francis used those words in order to express the fact that it is dangerous for the future of our community if we do not restart with the community, with children. It was also very clear on the fact that the Italian problem is not only Italian, but is also Europe.
Vicenzo, I want to ask you about the so-called demographic winter. Was that discussed, and were any solutions to it proposed?
We need more family networks which can encourage young people having children, having families. And on the other side, we need also states which governments which are aware of the fact that they have to throw away all the obstacles vis-à-vis the families. Then we need also family policies. If we try to create a new to sign a new agreement between all the parts of the civil society, it means families, family associations, enterprises, politics, and institutions. We have time to solve these problems, to look at the future in an optimistic way.
Vicenzo, thank you so much for your time today and for speaking with us about this. Vicenzo Bassi, president of the Federation of Catholic Family Associations in Europe. Thank you again.
Thank you to you. You're welcome.
Coming up, deadly clashes. We're tracking an explosion of violence in the Holy Land, what it means for peace in the region. The U.S. Bishops' Conference is offering prayers for peace in the Holy Land. Violence between Israel and Hamas continues in the region. More than 100 people, including women and children, have been killed. The USCCB says in part, quote, "The killing of one's neighbor only serves to demonize one's adversary." For now, though, the military confrontations between Israeli forces and Hamas continue. Video showing Israeli citizens running for cover as the sound of sirens alert people to incoming rockets. Meantime, thousands of Palestinians have fled their homes as Israel pounded the northern Gaza Strip with tank fire and airstrikes. Joining us now to talk more about this is Clare Lopez, strategic policy and intelligence expert and founder of Lopez Liberty, LLC. Clare, welcome back. Great to see you. It has been a while since we've seen this type of conflict in the Holy Land, and certainly the most violent since the Gaza war in 2014. Can you talk more about what sparked this most recent activity and also what's different about it?
Well, I think there's been a confluence of events that led up to the current clash, right? So obviously the month of Ramadan, which ran from April until May, is a special period of jihad and fighting and warfare, during which Muslims believe they gain extra blessings from Allah. Then at the end of Ramadan, about a week ago, you had Quds Day on Friday, which is always the day when the Iranian regime stirs up hatred against Israel and Jews. Monday, this past week, Monday was Jerusalem Day, when Israel celebrates the reunification of Jerusalem after the 1967 war. And then there's been confusion, or at least maybe we could say uncertainty, at the head of three governments. The United States government with a new administration that is not seen as supportive of Israel or the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as President Trump had been. Uncertainty in Ramallah because Abu Mazen, or Mahmoud Abbas, first called for re-elections and then had to cancel them when they realized that Hamas would probably win those elections. And then finally, of course, in Jerusalem itself, with uncertainty about putting together a coalition for a new government and how that would be formed. For the time being, though, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu remains prime minister.
Well, as we know, the Israeli Air Force has conducted a number of airstrikes, one of the most recent reportedly on Hamas's underground tunnel network. What more do we know about that, and how has Hamas been responding?
Well, it seems that the Israelis pulled off a brilliant information operation between yesterday and today by massing troops, including ground troops and tanks, on the border with Gaza, and then putting out over social media and the media the implication, at least, that a ground invasion of Gaza was imminent. They lured senior Hamas military commanders out of their hiding underground in tunnels that are sometimes called the Metro because they're so extensive underground in Gaza, lured them out in a way that allowed Israel to strike them and also at the mouths of the tunnels in a way that set off secondary explosions inside the tunnels, destroying piles of ammunition and other weapons hidden in there. So that is what's been going on. I think that Israel is trying to avoid a ground invasion, as we saw back in 2014, but by ruses like this one and very precision airstrikes on headquarters, intelligence centers, logistics centers, ammo depots, and of course the missile and the rocket firing locations. They've so far avoided a land invasion, which would involve, many, many more casualties on both sides. But for now, they are concentrating on precision airstrikes, which have been devastatingly effective. Many, many senior Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad commanders have been dispatched over the last days.
Claire, we have probably about 30 seconds or so left, but I'm wondering, how do you see this all playing out? And do you think there will be a ceasefire anytime soon?
I expect, at least from statements made by Benjamin Netanyahu, for example, and other leadership figures in Israel, that the campaign to degrade Hamas significantly will continue for at least a few more days. Into next week, I would expect. And everyone, of course, is hoping to keep the casualties to a minimum and also, at the same time, to deter Hezbollah. Of course, Hezbollah and Hamas both backed by Iran, but to keep Hezbollah from entering into the conflict right now.
Well, Claire, thank you so much for coming on and for your analysis. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Clare Lopez, strategic policy and intelligence expert and founder of Lopez Liberty, LLC. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Up next, returning to a regular routine. What Cardinal George Pell says about the importance of prayer and worship. And Marian pilgrimage, how one archdiocese is honoring our mother. A German court has upheld a ban on a pro-life prayer vigil. Pro-lifers were told that they could no longer pray in front of a pre-abortion advisory center in the southwestern part of the country. One pro-life leader says that she is saddened by the decision, adding vulnerable women and their unborn children need prayers and support. Cardinal George Pell says as the world begins to reemerge from the coronavirus pandemic, it is important to return to an in-person routine of prayer and worship. At the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas, the 79-year-old cardinal led the university's annual procession yesterday. Pell said the lives of young people are very noisy, and it was encouraging to see the students enthusiastic for silent prayer. Finally, tonight, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati in Ohio is turning 200 years old next month, and they are taking the celebrations for the milestone one step at a time.
33 days, 33 parishes, 300 miles.
It's an event that will bring our very large diocese together.
Pilgrims will carry a statue of Our Lady of Fatima throughout the entire Archdiocese. That is 36 parishes and more than 300 miles. It is believed to be the longest Marian procession in the United States. Joining us now is Father Ethan Moore, pastor of St. Monica, St. George Parish in Cincinnati, Ohio. Father Moore, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. So what was the inspiration behind this 300-mile journey, and why is it planned to be exactly 33 days long?
Well, the inspiration was we love our mother. We can't get enough of Our Lady. You know, just yesterday was 5/13, the very feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. What is so amazing, which I just learned, is 513, 513. That's also the area code. If you have a Cincinnati phone number, it's 513. So Mary, we feel, has chosen us to be hers. And so in this pilgrimage, we are actively choosing her as our mom, and we want to make that known to the ends of the earth, to the ends of our archdiocese, and we're just excited to be able to do that on our 200th anniversary of being here for her.
I love it. That is incredible. What's the response been like so far?
People are stoked. There is just a buzz that's going on amongst our people. You know, everybody here in the Archdiocese, each parish received copies of 33 Days to Morning Glory so that individually and collectively we can make our consecration to Jesus through Mary. And so those have been going out. There's been a lot of publicity. The Archdiocese has done really well about communicating just the power of this experience and inviting all these parishes and all these people into it so that it really can be a celebration of joy. So people are in the know and they're just pumped for the next upcoming 33 days.
That is wonderful. I know the Marian pilgrimage will stop at your parish next month. What events do you have planned, and is each parish, are they doing something different?
They are each in their unique way doing something that is liturgical, that would involve some form of prayer, whether that is actually a mass or a procession or something Eucharistic or a rosary kind of activity. We here at the University of Cincinnati, St. Monica, St. George, we do these things that I call PLPs, which stands for Parking Lot Party, baby. So we're going to have parking lot praise at our event, and we'll be hosting kind of a young adult vibrancy. There is a Catholic brewery just down the street from us called Humble Monk. So they're brewing a special batch of Marian beer for us. So we're going to have some praise. We're going to have some opportunity to just imbibe and celebrate life and have a toast to Mary. So we're trying to wrap it all in as a joyful experience for all that'll come our way.
That's wonderful. That is so great. For those who can't join in person, say someone like me who doesn't live in the area, how else can they participate, and where can we find more information?
Absolutely. So www.mary2021.org will give you the guide for knowing what's happening and how you can be included. We, number one, are just asking people to do the 33 days with us, to be a prayer partner in this experience. Number two would just be really to follow along. There will be like a live stream that keeps people actively engaged with what will be progressing from day to day. And there's just a lot of videos and coverage. There'll be lots of articles found on that website. And it'll be a really awesome way to be a part of the pilgrimage, even if you can't yourself be a statue guardian or walk along the trail itself.
Yeah, it sounds just absolutely incredible. It's so wonderful that you're doing that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you for talking with us today. Father Ethan Moore, pastor of St. Monica, St. George in Cincinnati. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Totally. My honor. We're praying for you. All for Mom, all for Jesus.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.